Capchase raised a $4.6 million round to, quote, deliver fast cash to SaaS companies. Danny, I read this, but I want you to talk us through why we need one more way to tinker with SaaS incomes.
Yeah, so if we're starting with Climax Foods, I think Capchase is really kind of the opposite of that. Like, so this is a cash cycle conversion optimization startup.
Yeah.
And you would be totally excused for giving up on this podcast, unsubscribing, and moving on to, I don't know, like catvideo.com or something like that. Hopefully that's not a porn site.
You're such a boomer. I love it. Catvideos.com. Dude, TikTok.
TikTok. Well, TikTok's only got like what, 17 days, 16 days left to go on the ticker. So hopefully a buzzer beater is coming shortly. But look, Capchase is taking advantage of a new market, which is there are now hundreds, if not thousands, of SaaS companies making revenues. And one of the most common challenges with most SaaS companies is you have customers that sign, multi-month, multi-year purchase agreements. So they'll say, hey, we're going to spend $2,000 a month for the next 2 years. That's $48,000 across the total contract, what's known as the total contract value, or TCV. The challenge is you can't get that money up front. And startups want money up front to pay for payroll, cash flow, growth, etc. Today, most startups go and get venture debt. They get what's known as a accounts receivable line. Capchase is trying to make it a much more frictionless and pain-free way to get an AR line.
And the cool thing is here, so if you sell a contract for $100,000, and instead of getting that over 24 small chunks, you can sell it to Capchase, effectively get $95K of that up front. They take the $5K. It's not super cheap compared to certain interest rates, but certainly if you're a startup that wants to avoid taking on long-term debts or wants to avoid taking on capital to preserve dilution, I think it's cool. And Danny, I don't even really care how well Capchase does. I just like to see the explosion of different options for SaaS fundraising, given how it's kind of the de facto startup business model these days. Super cool to see innovation there, and I presume the competition will lead to an aggregate lower cost of capital, which is a net good for all startups that participate in kind of the new digital economy.
Yeah, well, certainly. And look, a lot of SaaS companies don't have any options, right? When you're super early and you're a credit risk, banks won't lend. So what most startups do early on is they actually give huge discounts to customers to do payments up front. Something on the order of 30 to 50% of the value as a discount. So that's really where Capchase is competing against, is those early customers where if there's a signed contract, look, the credit risk is really on the customer's part. Is the customer going to pay? So, they're really evaluating, if Xerox signs a 2-year contract, is Xerox going to pay for 2 years through the end of that? And if they are, it's a pretty good credit risk.
And I just want to add too, I feel like branding is so important here. They called themselves the non-dilutive revolution, which I'm not going to make fun of, because truly non-dilution is music to founders' ears, smart founders' ears during the pandemic and kind of going forward. You saw Clearbank kind of use a similar pitch, right? The anti-VC angle is really interesting for startups. Clearbank's different, but it's just another example of startups joining this and kind of hinging themselves off of the anti-VC route.
In many ways, you could say that they are the solution to non-dilution. And that is a chemistry joke and not one we get often on this podcast. But that's enough about Capchase and cash cycle conversion optimization, because again, if you haven't unsubscribed after hearing that phrase, something is very wrong with you. But